James and Ben back here for OddsChecker. We got a huge card this Saturday, UFC 285 going down at T-Mobile Arena, and we are going to start first in the middleweight division. Bo Nickal making his highly anticipated UFC debut against Jamie Pickett, and you can see here on most books, Bo Nickal the biggest favorite on the card. This is like boxing odds here. Bo Nickal minus 1,400, minus 1,800. Which way are you going here, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, Bo Nickal. I don't think that's necessarily a crazy prediction here. I just think that it will be interesting to see, because obviously I'd say Pickett's better than Beard and Brego, like the few guys he's faced that we've gotten to kind of see. I didn't see any tape on his very first fight, but I mean, Dana White said it after his first fight in the Contender Series. He's like, I just want to see one more, like kind of see, because he only had one fight in his record at the time when he started in the Contender Series. So I mean, of course it was a little bit of a question mark. I don't think there's really a question mark anymore. This dude's legit. I just don't see how he's going to lose for a while, especially against someone like Jamie Pickett, until he reaches the top of the division. And it's just going to be interesting to see because he's so dominant on the ground. I do think if someone can really test with their takedown defense, keep him on the feet, but even his striking's looked good too. So I mean, it's hard to see how this guy's going to lose. He's definitely a favorite for a reason. I don't think it's worth even throwing the money line in a parlay. I'd say if you're going to parlay it, I haven't seen a ton of lines out yet because we're still pretty early in the week, but I saw a minus 385 for inside the distance. I'd say maybe parlay that with something because I do think he's going to pretty easily win this fight. This almost kind of seems like a setup for him just with Pickett. Pickett took 3 fights on the Contender Series. I haven't seen too many fighters get 3 fights in the Contender Series. And then he made it to the UFC and he hasn't really done too much yet. He got back-to-back wins, but he's 2-4 now. Like it almost feels like kind of a setup in this fight to me.
It's 100% a setup. That's why he's fighting Jamie Pickett. And I like Jamie. I did have a chance to speak to him before this fight. But Bo, this is a fight to get Bo Nickal. There's a reason Bo Nickal's on the pay-per-view over Derek Brunson and Dracus du Plessis, which I think is a better fight. But it's to show people Bo Nickal. They're going to push this guy big time. I would look at the round props, round 1, round 2. I actually see that they have, I was looking at some of the books this morning. They have like round 1 by submission, round 1 by knockout, like props for Bo Nickal on some books, because that's how people see this fight going. But I'm with you, like inside the distance should hit, but I would look at like round 1, round 2 props as well. Here's the thing, Jamie Pickett, I know this was a couple of years ago, but he fought Puna Soriano on Contender Series back in 2019. Puna wrestled him, and Puna's not a collegiate wrestler. Bo Nickal is. He's one of the best wrestlers ever. So Nickal all day. Don't bet the minus 1,400. Just find the props if you want to bet this, but I would just stay away for sure. And I don't think there's value on Pickett, unfortunately. Okay, next fight, Mateusz Gamrot, Jalin Turner. So Gamrot stepping in for Dan Hooker. And it's actually interesting because Gamrot is the favorite in this fight, minus 210. The comeback on Turner, plus 180. Who you liking here, Ben?
Yeah, it's interesting because the main card is filled with juice. There's not too many spots. You're going to have to play props or you're going to have to parlay basically on the main card if you want to bet this because it's kind of tough with how juiced the main card is. I mean, the closest fight is the main event. So yet again, another one where I like Gamrot. I do think his wrestling will obviously come into effect here against Jalin Turner. I'm not sure if he'll be able to hang with it. Turner, he has a pretty substantial reach advantage here, but I don't know if he'll be able to use it. It'll be interesting to see if he can use it. I just think Gamrot's entries are going to be too good. I mean, the dude's averaging like almost 5 takedowns per 15 minutes. And I think he has a little bit more experience too with against the better competition. So I do think this is actually not a great matchup for Turner. So I like Gamrot, but again, don't love the odds playing a money line. Maybe parlay it with that Nickal inside the distance. You're probably going to have to play props or parlay on this card. But yeah, I like Gamrot to win.
I like Gamrot as well. Gamrot by decision, I think, is the play here. Jalen's a tough guy to finish. Gamrot's not much of a power. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Gamrot has got some early finishes before he finished Jeremy Stevens. But Turner's coming off a bit of a layoff, right? Hasn't fought since July. He's had some injuries. Gamrot, I believe, got about 3 weeks for this fight. But Gamrot's just so good. Like we saw the win over Arman Saryukin, even though I think Arman edged that one out. He just lost to Beneil Dariush, should be fighting for the title next. He's not. He's fighting Charles Oliveira. Gamrot has shown he's a top 5 guy. I don't know if Jalen's there yet. So Gamrot by decision is going to be my play here for that fight. Okay, next one we're going to look at here is Geoff Neal and Shavkat Rakhmonov. And you can see Shavkat a big favorite here at minus 500. The comeback on Geoff Neal, plus 340. Who are you liking here?
Yeah, so it's interesting to see these odds are as high as they are. Like I would like it to be a little bit closer because I do think Rakhmonov will win, but I do think the odds should be a little bit closer. I get that Neal hasn't fought. He's actually fought a lot of strikers. He stayed on the feet quite a bit, and he is coming off a pretty good win against Vicente Luque. But of course, like Rakhmonov, I just feel like if it's not going his way on the feet, he'll just be able to take this to the ground, and he can probably maybe find the submission at that point. I mean, Neal isn't the easiest guy to submit. I think he's only been submitted like one time, but I just feel like this will stay on the feet. And if Rakhmonov isn't having success, he's just going to take him down. And I don't know where it's going to go from there. But he's such a good wrestler. He has that Sambo style. Like, I just feel like he'll be able to get this to the ground at will. But of course, every fight starts on the feet. We just saw it with Brennan Allen Muniz. Every round starts on the feet. So there's always a chance. And Allen actually ends up submitting him, which is funny. But yeah, Neal has a chance on the feet. It should be more 50-50 on the feet, but I think Rakhmonov's going to get a takedown, and that's why these odds are so wide. So I might look at his prop for like a submission maybe in this fight. I know Neal doesn't get submitted often, like I said, but that's honestly how I see it ending if it does go to the ground.
I like Rakhmonov here as well. I might look at the Rakhmonov by decision. Geoff Neal's never been finished in the UFC. He's been knocked out in the regional scene. Kevin Holland knocked him out, but I don't know if Shavkat's going to be able to do that. Neal's pretty durable. Neal's fought better opposition. I mean, that win over Luque, he schooled him. He absolutely destroyed Luque in that fight, and you can't sort of look past that. So yeah, I think it's going to be tougher. I kind of see this fight maybe end up being a little bit like Khamzat Chimaev and Gilbert Burns, where, you know, again, like Chimaev was supposed to just run right through Gilbert Burns. That didn't happen. I could see the same thing here happening with Shavkat. If you can't get a quick finish, I think Neal could make it competitive, but ultimately I do have to go with Shavkat in this one. I might look at the decision prop as an option, but yeah, I'm not laying minus 500 on Shavkat. No way. Okay, co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko, Alexa Grasso right now on OddsChecker. Shevchenko about minus 670. Typical. Grasso about plus 430. Who are you liking here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to bet this one. I'm not going to bet it either way, but I do think Shevchenko obviously will win because her last fight against Santos, like, that was actually a pretty.
I thought she lost. I thought she lost.
Yeah, I mean, it was a split decision on the scorecards. The fan scorecards, I think, were slightly in favor of Shevchenko, but it was even close on the media and fan scorecards, which you don't usually see in a split decision. Usually, like, oh, it was a robbery, or oh no, they clearly won. But it was actually pretty 50-50. So, but it was 48-47 pretty much either way. There weren't too many 49-46. Super close fight. But I think that was more of just like an off night. And I believe Santos was a harder matchup for Shevchenko than Grasso is.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I just think it's another bad matchup. I think actually after seeing her at her most vulnerable in her last fight, we're going to see her just come out and just stomp again, because I do think there might have been a little bit of an aspect of like she was just running through the division for so long and she hadn't really had someone step up like Santos. And now that she's kind of had that like close call, I think that's going to light the fire back in her again, kind of relight that motivation. She's still only like I think she's 34. She's 34 still. She's got time. She's definitely not. I saw someone saying like she's past her prime. She's not past her prime. She's still only 34. But again, this fight's too juiced for me to want to bet anything. I'll just watch Shevchenko win again. Maybe I'll parlay it with something, but the odds are too high again. So yeah. Nothing for me.
No, I feel the same way. Maybe in the back of my head, there's a thought that maybe Valentina's on a bit of a decline just because like I said, Santos looked in control of most of that fight in the last one, right? And remember, she had the eye injury too. Like if Santos didn't have the eye injury, I think she would have had more success, right? Her eye was busted up. Shevchenko was the one who caused that, but still, I think that fight was way too close for comfort. But the thing is, like, Grasso really like hasn't done anything outstanding. Like she's gotten these wins, but they haven't been like, you know, like a first round finish or like something crazy where you think, okay, like now we got to start. Like Aaron Blanchfield, who won a couple weeks ago, that's where it's like, okay, this could be an interesting fight for Valentina. I don't get the same sense with Alexa. I feel like she's a well-rounded fighter, but she doesn't do anything exceptional. And I just don't think she has any of the tools to like beat a Shevchenko per se. And I'm with you there. I think Shevchenko looks great in this fight. I don't think she's on the decline. I think she had a bad night at the office. I think she goes out there and looks great. I think the big question is, can she finish Grasso? Grasso's been finished like 1 or 2 times in her career, but not typical. We'll see. But I'm staying away from this 100%. But Valentina, probably by decision, winning would be my best call, I think, in this one. Okay, let's get to the main event. I'm curious your pick on this one because I've seen this go back and forth, and even on the odds as well. I believe Jones opened up as an underdog. He's now the favorite. So Jon Jones, Ciryl Gane, right now on OddsChecker. Jones the favorite, almost 2-1, about minus 165. The comeback on Gane, plus 140. Who are you going with here, Ben, in the main event?
Well, it's interesting because, you said the odds have been flipping, and it is interesting. I think a lot more bets will be on Jon Jones just because he's obviously one of the greatest fighters of all time. Like, he's dominant. But there are question marks, of course. Like, he's coming in off the long layoff, fighting at heavyweight now. And to be honest, Gane, he's one of my favorite heavyweight fighters. I was, a little bit let down when he lost against Francis Ngannou. I was on him in that fight, but I do think this is a little bit more favorable of a matchup for him just because he plays a very methodical game, right? Like if Jon Jones was fighting another heavyweight who's just swinging for the fences, like he's obviously going to win that fight. But Gane is not that style of heavyweight. He's methodical. He stays at range. He kind of picks you apart. He uses leg kicks a lot. Like he's not a usual heavyweight, and he moves exceptionally well. He has some of the best movement for a heavyweight fighter. So I think this actually possesses a lot of problems for Jones coming up to the heavyweight division. Like we don't know how he's going to look. There's a lot of question marks. So I think that's kind of why the odds are shifting quite a bit. You see people like backing different angles here. There's a lot of different angles you can play here. Like Jones with the long layoff, he's going to lose because of that. The new weight class. But at the end of the day, I do think Gane wins this fight. It's super hard to bet against Jon Jones. Like the dude has never lost. His one loss is a DQ. He's never lost. That's a super hard prediction to call. But with how the odds are, and just from what I think, how I see this fight going, I see it being pretty close and probably going to a decision. In that case, I gotta think that Gane has a pretty good shot here. So I'm gonna back him at the underdog odds.
I hate to bore our audience here, but I completely agree with what you just said. And here's what it comes down to for me as well. It's like, I feel as though the people that are imagining Jon Jones in this fight are imagining the Jon Jones in like 2011 when he was just running through guys. Like his last 3 performances have not been good. There's this school of thought out there that, oh, Jones couldn't get up for these fights because of the opponents weren't like big name opponents like Daniel Cormier. It was Thiago Santos and Anthony Smith and Dominic Reyes. I don't buy that at all. I think there is a case to be made that Jon might be a bit on the decline. Think of all the stress he's had to deal with outside the cage. Think of the training camp stuff, all that. Now I realize he's had 3 years to bulk up to heavyweight. He's had some time off to fix some things. He hasn't been taking any damage during that time, you would think, right? So that could be interesting. I think he's taken the right amount of time off to come up to heavyweight, but Gane's been so much more active. I always bring up this example, but Israel Adesanya moving up to fight Jan Blachowicz, we saw there was a size and strength difference. Like Jon may have bulked up to heavyweight, but we have no idea how he's going to look in there with a guy like Gane who's fought at heavyweight, who's been active. And I feel like people are overlooking Gane's fight IQ. Like he's a pretty smart fighter. They talk about the loss to Ngannou, but that was still a close fight. I honestly believe that Gane didn't expect Ngannou to wrestle. I don't think Gane has bad wrestling. Like fans are so quick to it's like Jamal Hill has a bad ground game because he got submitted by Paul Craig, but then he fights Glover and his ground game was fine. I think the same could be said here for Gane and his wrestling. I think people are putting way too much stock into Jon's wrestling in this fight and using that as a way for him to win, whereas it might not even get there. Maybe Gane does stuff a takedown. Maybe Gane keeps it standing, and can Jon Jones take a Ciryl Gane heavyweight punch as opposed to a Anthony Smith light heavyweight punch? I don't know. So to me, I got to go with the guy who's younger, hasn't taken any damage at all, really. I mean, the only time we've seen him get hit was against Tai Tuivasa, who I think hits harder than Jones does, and was able to get up and survive that. Jones can try for takedowns. He may get a few, but is he going to be able to do that for 5 rounds? I'm not so sure. Yeah. I got to go with the more active guy, the younger fighter, the guy who's actually fought in the weight class longer. I'm going Ciryl Gane by decision. I have to. And you're getting him at plus money. I mean, there's not much more to be said there. I might be completely wrong. This could be a fight where, Jon shows up and looks like the old Jon, but I just think that's such an ask. And also, I see people talking about a quick finish. Jon's last finish was against Gustafsson, who's a guy that is also on the way out in terms of he's basically retired now. Jon does not typically finish his opponents, at least not recently. The old Jon, the Jon that was, back in 2011 around there, he was finishing everyone, but I don't think he'll finish Ciryl Gane here. So, Gane decision.
And also, I've seen the Jon Jones quick finish thing as well. All I'm saying is if you can take multiple hits from Francis Ngannou, you can definitely take a hit from pretty much anyone else in the world, because it's been scientifically proven that Francis Ngannou, I saw that they did something, he hits harder than like a sedan hitting a wall or whatever. Like he literally hits the hardest basically in the entire world. So if you can take a hit from him, you can take a hit from Jon Jones. Exactly. All right. Well, I hope everyone enjoys the card this weekend. We'll be back next week previewing, I think it's Corey Sandhagen and Chito Vera, if I'm not mistaken, is next March 11th, that card. Yeah. So the Texas card. So looking forward to that. For myself, for Ben, hope you guys cash those bets this weekend. I'm going to be in Vegas watching this one live, so I'm looking forward to it. We'll see you next week, and go cash those bets.